Welcome to Maker's Hustle, the podcast about turning your passion into a profession. This is episode 1 for Monday, July 11th, 2016. I'm your host, Bill Lavolsi. With me, as always, are Amy Davis-Roth. Hi, Amy.
Hello.
And Jeffrey Moore. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, what's going on, Bill?
So, the topic for today is awkward transitions. Yay! No, the actual topic is, what are you selling? So, starting with Amy. Amy, what are you selling?
I'm selling a dream, man. Selling a dream. I am selling my own dream, actually. I have always, my entire life, wanted to find a way to make a living as an artist, and it has taken me about 2 decades to actually figure out how to do that. But what I'm currently selling is handmade ceramic jewelry called surly-ramics, and that is inspired by science, nature, and critical thinking. So I have sort of a unique niche market, while I'm also selling sort of a traditional woman's work type of object because I make jewelry. I cater to sort of a intellectual market, and I go to a lot of science events and sci-fi events, and a lot of the work I make is inspired by science. And I also have a lot of scientists that help me peer review the work that I do. And I also do art, which is sort of how my business started, and I don't know if we want to discuss it on this episode, but maybe on another one I can tell you about my wonderful failures and how that helped me get to where I am today. But I did start off as a painter and an illustrator and a graphic designer, and I've incorporated that work into my jewelry business. So I do a lot of drawings and illustrations that I then make molds of and turn them into jewelry. And that's primarily how I make a living, and I've been doing that for 10 years now. So I have what one might consider a successful business. It has helped pay the bills. I certainly don't live large, but I am living the dream. I am making a living as an artist, and I make surly-ramics. So you can check that out at surly-ramics.com. if you want to see some samples of what I'm doing.
That is super cool. So what about you, Jeff? What are you selling?
Well, if the question is, how do I pay my bills? I am a training specialist for a nonprofit organization. I train my staff of about 1,300 employees on behavior supports, trauma-informed care, and a couple other models. Essentially, I'm a teacher. But what I would like to sell and what my, I guess you could say, side hustle and projects that I currently work on, which will one day bring in a little extra income, is I have a robotics company. I'm developing a robotic platform that is kind of modular in the sense that we can go from any kind of animal-inspired robot by just making a few changes and modifications to the body design. So I have that. And then I also have a company that I am developing to kind of help people who are trying to launch crowdfunding campaigns. So really building a community, providing a little bit of consulting, and then also marketing and promotion for people's campaigns. That's called makersfile.com. I forgot to actually mention that the robotics company is Animec Project. And then I also have a media production company. And, I just make videos and, I do teasers, commercials. I've made a short film. So I do a couple of things. So really, it's just throwing a bunch of darts at the wall, seeing which one is going to turn into something. Hopefully all of them turn into something because I actually love all of them. They're all passions of mine, and I really couldn't just pick one. So instead of working 40 hours a week for just the training specialist, I actually work nonstop all day.
Okay, hold up. I got some questions. Okay, talk to me a little bit more about the robots. Like, you make robots that are based on animals?
Absolutely. So right now I have 3 completed models, but they're not completed because I'm actually redesigning them, improving some things. But right now I have 3. I have a dog, I have a dragon. It's really inspired by a Komodo dragon, but I put horns on its head. So now I just call it a dragon. And then I also have a T-Rex. So the dragon and the dog, those are quadrupeds. And then I have the T-Rex, which is a biped. But they all function and walk like the animals that they're inspired by. And the design, like I said, is complete. I'm just actually redeveloping it so that I can have it more of a production line. Like right now, everything is designed to be 3D printed. And obviously, I can do injection molding. But when I'm thinking about production wise, how I'm going to make this an actual product, I think that maybe laser cutting and some more 2D designs is a little bit easier to facilitate than if I was to, go out and get an injection molder outsourced and all that other stuff. So I actually just redesigned the robots so that they can be laser cut and the the pieces can come like that.
Okay, we are going to be the best of friends, Jeff. We are going to be the best of friends
Well,
because currently the other project that I'm working on right now is I have a Patreon. It's Patreon/surly-amy, and I have been drawing nonstop for the past 3 months robots.
Really?
And I have a cat bot and a dog bot and all kinds of different robots that are based also on molecular chemistry, and they teach little bits of science. And I have these fantasies that someone's going to turn my illustrations into actual robots someday. So maybe
it's probably, listen, I'll be honest with you, this is something that I've been trying to do dang near all my life. Ever since I was a little kid, I've always loved robots. And there's a lot of robots out there that they're very basic. You get a quadruped, you get a hexapod, they come and it's just a bunch of little nub feet and they tap the ground and stuff like that. And it really leaves nothing to the imagination. So I spent a lot of time actually staring at animals, looking at the actual way that animals look, the molecular structure, not the molecular structure, but
Yeah, the fur and stuff too. Well, they have fur.
Why did you say molecular structure? You threw me
Because
off.
my robots are based on molecular chemistry because I always try to teach a little bit of science while I do these really sort of fun sci-fi drawings.
I said molecular, like that's what I meant. No, the actual anatomy. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
Sorry, but they're inspired by the anatomy of the animals, and going from that point and making that a real life robot. And Bill can attest. He's seen them. The motion is pretty close. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I'll pat myself on the back here. I think the anatomy and the way that I transferred those into engineering principles are very, very close. And especially with the way that I'm actually redesigning them, I'm making a few improvements. And you show me what you got, we might be able to make something happen.
Yeah, let's work together. That would make me so happy. That'd be fun.
Jeff, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
When do you sleep?
Yeah, good question.
I don't sleep. I don't sleep. Now that we're doing a podcast, I'm definitely not going to sleep. I'm going to be borrowing hours from tomorrow.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, actually, to bring up on a podcast like this. People I get this a lot, you're so lucky, you get to work at home and it must be so easy for you. But the reality is if you have your own business or if you're trying to start a business, you literally have to be prepared to work 7 days a week. There's no such thing as weekends anymore. There's no such thing as days off. You can't call in sick because you are the boss. And I have an online business, so even when I travel to do events, which I do quite frequently, I still have to be available 24 hours a day to answer any customer requests or if there's a return that I need to do or anything like that. So, anyone listening that's wanting to get some advice, be prepared to absolutely love whatever it is that you're doing because there will be days that you're going to hate it.
Yeah, absolutely. But Bill, tell us a little bit about yourself, Bill.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thanks, Jeff. I forgot I was here. So my name is Bill Lavolsi, and I am a full-time content creator. And that means a few different things. I run a website called One Car Workshop and a YouTube channel of the same name where I make videos about making stuff. So woodworking, metalworking, glass, plastic, whatever I can get my hands on, I'll make something out of it. And the goal of that is to show people that you can make really cool stuff in a very small space. You don't need a giant workshop in order to do cool things. I mean, Jeff, you're building robots in an apartment in New York.
I'm building robots at a desk in an apartment.
Yeah.
That's awesome, though.
And Amy, you didn't always have a studio.
Right. I've told you my story about how I was actually living in my car at one point until they repossessed my car. And that is literally how my business started because I had to make tiny things when I used to make huge things. But I ended up having nowhere to live. And then a friend of mine that ended up becoming my husband later allowed me to live in his one-room bachelor apartment in Hollywood. And that's where I started my business. And that's why I made necklaces, because I had to make something really, really small. So you make do with what you have, and you can do it. Yeah, that's basically what being an artist is. I mean, you take what is available to you and you make it into something better.
I don't know if I would call myself an artist, but I'm definitely making the most of a small space, and I'm trying to show people through the YouTube channel that they can do that too, even if what they want to do is something that typically happens in a huge industrial space like welding or woodworking. I mean, you see these guys on YouTube build this giant workshop in the backyard, and you look at that and you go, I could never have that. And the point is, you don't need that. You can do a lot with very little. I have 200 square feet and I'm doing just fine. But then the product is not the stuff that I'm making, it's the video.
Absolutely.
And then the other thing that I'm doing, I call myself a content creator and not a YouTuber because YouTube is not all that I'm doing. I also write freelance articles for Make Magazine, which is how I met both of you.
Yay!
Yeah,
Great
all three of us.
article, by the way.
Thank
Link in the bio.
Yeah, we'll have links in the show notes for these. But I met Amy and Jeff at Maker Faire Bay Area 2016. I wrote articles about both of them. And then I was just recently featured in Make Magazine myself. I've been writing for them since April, but I recently had an article written about me, which was kind of a trip.
That's so meta.
Yeah, it was a little weird. In addition to the YouTube videos and the articles, I'm also working on a book with Jimmy DiResta, which is super cool, and I'm very excited about that.
Please explain who that is for those of us that don't know.
All right, Jimmy DiResta is a maker and YouTuber. He has about 600,000 subscribers. He's been making stuff his entire life, so about 40 years.
Cool.
He's had a few TV shows. None of them were very successful. Well, they were successful at the time. That's not really the right way to say it. They were successful, but they never got picked up for another season. And his frustration with that caused him to go to YouTube. Because he was saying the next time he got a TV show, he wanted to be able to say, look, I have fans. They want to see me do what I do. It then became something bigger than that. So now he has no desire to go back to television ever. And he's been very, very vocal about that. He's saying, YouTube is the new television. You can go find exactly what you want.
It's true.
And there's none of the cornball, fakeo reality TV crap either. So,
Hey, now, that's what my husband does for a living. He is an editor for reality television. So you watch your mouth there, Bill.
okay.
No, but he would.
It's the people who he's editing.
Yeah, no, he would agree with you, actually, that reality television is not.
I wonder how many
high
hours
quality.
go into, how much nonsense has to get edited out.
We'll have him on as a guest and we'll ask him those questions. That'll be a fun conversation. But it is true, YouTube and Netflix and a lot of these once independent, new media entities are actually where we go for our content now. I last night was watching a Maria Bamford stand-up that you can only find on YouTube. So I think that that's great, that people are doing it independently. And I don't know what his opinions are about never wanting to go back to network television, because it is often sort of a stepping stone. There's a lot of comedians and actors and different people that start off on YouTube and then, get like a Comedy Central series like the girls from Broad City. They started out just doing their own shorts and then they got, a whole series. So I understand being angry and not wanting to go back, but...
Well, I don't think he's trying to say that nobody should ever go on television. I think he's just saying that for him personally...
Yeah.
All that he's interested in doing is building things, and with TV, they want to build a narrative around that, and what he's saying is, well, let me just build something.
Yeah, and also, when you think about, when you're on TV, even though you're the face of the show, many times it's not your show, right? So with YouTube, he has complete creative control. Whatever he wants to do, whatever he wants to say, and that's what a lot of these new media is, like we said. But I think there's no wrong way to go about it. Like, you can go on network TV, you can do YouTube, you can do both, you can do neither. You probably can't do neither. But, it's really interesting. But when you talked about being a content creator, there's so many ways to create content and there's so many ways to get your content out there. And I think that's what, where we are right now. I think that's the real American dream right there.
Yeah, I mean, that's an excellent point. And it ties back to what Amy said, which is you have to love what you're doing.
Absolutely.
And you have to be willing to put in the hours, because technically I've been a content creator for the last 10 years. I mean, I reviewed home theater equipment. That was my job. And I collected a paycheck and I had a 9-to-5 job doing just that. What I do now, I get paid much less. I do much more work. I put in much longer hours, but I love it. And that makes all the difference. So, I might be working 15, 16 hours a day, but it doesn't feel like work. I don't resent it. I don't hate it.
Absolutely. I'll say, like I said, I'm a training specialist. I work for a nonprofit. I love my job. And if I was probably anybody else, I would probably sit in this job and retire in this job. I make good money. It's not stressful, low stress. And I get to create there. Every training is different because everybody who I have in the room is different. So I'm feeding off of their energy. I'm using new stories. So that never gets old to me. I love that. And like I said, I could do that for the rest of my life if I wasn't me. But this week specifically, I took off. I did my vacation. But instead of going somewhere for my vacation, I'm here redesigning these robots. And I've done it all day. I've sat in my apartment. I haven't left in 4 days. That sounds pretty sad, but it's not. I really enjoy it, and I've done it all day. I got my 3D printer going. I got cartoons on, and I'm chilling.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So you're right. You do need to be ready for the level of work. I always say it's two things that you need to be successful. You need effort and you need support. You got those two things, you can take as many risks as you want. If you don't have one of those two things, don't take the risk because you're not going to last.
That's actually a really great point. Man, you're killing it today.
I'm sorry.
No, you are killing it today.
I'm going to pull the gas. I'm going to take my foot off the pedal.
I love it. I do the same thing with having cartoons on in the background while I'm working at home, and people probably that aren't makers or aren't artists would think that I'm a strange little recluse, but I'm constantly working, and that's so funny. I love to have cartoons on repeat because it's like, it's almost meditative, and it's also art. But if I happen to look at the screen, there's art up there, but it's like sort of isn't anything that really causes me to think too much about the sound, and then I can keep working at the same time. That's really funny. I love that.
The reason why it takes me all day is because I'm half watching, half.
Oh, okay. I don't have no problem. I have to look all the time because I'm always drawing or painting or making things, so I can't look up, and that's why I have such a hard time keeping up with popular culture. And I also write for this blog called Skepchick, and I also write for Mad Art Lab. And I'm sort of required to be up to date on pop culture, and I have the hardest time doing it because I don't want to watch TV. I want to make stuff all the time. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, I run into that same issue because since I started making my own videos, I suddenly no longer have time to keep up with all my favorite YouTube creators. The problem is most of my material for Make Magazine comes from YouTube creators. So if I'm not up to date, what am I going to write about?
Exactly. We have to
lost
stay in touch.
the sauce.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of my jewelry has to do with social activism and things like that. So I do also need to keep, up to date on what's happening on Twitter and things like that. So it's difficult to keep everything in line.
Yeah. So Jeff, you told us what you did this week. You took the week off and you redesigned your robots. Amy, you went to a convention?
I did. I went to Convergence in Minnesota. It's a sci-fi convention. It takes about 4 days. And I spent about 5 days in Minnesota. It was lovely. I had a really great time. They had moved their vendor room to a separate hotel, so it was like much more spacious. I've done that event 6 years in a row now. And my blog, Skepchick, organizes the science track there. So they do what's called Skepchicon, and we bring in female scientists from all over the world, and we have panels, and we organize the whole science track for that event. Of course, I never get to really see any of it because I spend my entire time in the vendor room selling my jewelry. Yes. But I do check in a lot, and it went really well, and it was a really positive experience, and I had a great time. I don't think I'll be going back next year, unfortunately, because we're looking at, and you're going to love this, Bill, we're looking at moving the science track that we call Skepchicon to Las Vegas.
Heyo!
Yeah, so I'm really excited
about doing Skepchicon like separate.
Yeah, that's exactly it, because we've been doing it for so many years underneath another organization, and it's really difficult to do that, and it costs us a lot of money because we have to fly in all the scientists, and we do all this organization, and we've just sort of got to the point where we think we could do a little mini event on our own, and we think Las Vegas would be really excellent because you can get a cheap hotel, and the food is everywhere, and so we're looking at doing that next year. So yeah, I spent my past week at Convergence in Minnesota. It was great.
Very cool. I spent my last week, let's see, what did I do? I transcribed interviews for the book, which sounds like grunt work, but I've been talking to fascinating people all over the world. Other makers, artists, like professors from the School of Visual Arts in New York, magicians. Anybody who's interacted with Jimmy over his career usually has a story. I actually, a couple of weeks ago, I got to have breakfast with his brother Joey, who was in Las Vegas for a toy convention, like a toy licensing, because Joey's in the toy business. Jimmy used to be in the toy business as well. But I find that these conversations, they tend to be really fascinating and kind of wide-ranging, and they go wherever they want to go. So it's actually really fun to sit and transcribe these conversations and kind of pull quotes from them for the book. And I get to relive these awesome conversations that I had with people. And the problem that I have is that I get lost in them. I'll just sit there and listen because it's so much fun.
And then you forget
and then I forget to be writing. Yeah.
Well, pretty soon you're going to be a big time writer and you're going to forget about us. You're going to.
Oh, no. Well, that's kind of my thing is anytime I have a platform, I try to use it to boost people up. Like when I got in with Make Magazine, I started talking to other small content creators that I interacted with before and just saying, do you have a project that I could feature? Do you have anything cool coming up? And these guys would have, a few hundred subscribers, maybe a few thousand on the outside. So they're still pretty small. And just trying to give them a leg up because suddenly I have access to Make's platform, which they've been building for so long. So suddenly I have this ability to put something that I know is great in front of so many more people and just get this huge boost out of it. And I think that doing that, it'll come back to me. And I mean, I got featured this week and it put my channel over 1,000 subscribers, which was tremendous. Like, it's only 6 months old and I've got 1,000 subscribers on there, which is nuts.
Congratulations. Well,
Thank you.
know how and I think we spoke about this before, but getting that first 1,000 is difficult. Once you hit 1,000, it becomes easier. Once you get to about 5, 6, 7,000, then they just start rolling in.
Yeah, well, I spoke to a few different people when I was preparing to start the channel, and they all said the same thing. First of all, the first 1,000 is the hardest, and then after that, after a certain point, it'll start to snowball, and you'll just pick up subscribers faster than you know what to do. So it's been a crazy ride so far, and I love it. I really love it.
Well, hopefully with this puts you over the top. We pick up some subscribers with this. People care enough about what we're saying to want to listen to it a little bit more.
Well, that's why I've been trying not to talk very much, because you two are fascinating. So I figure if I just stay quiet, this will be good.
Well, I think Amy's the most fascinating one on here.
No, you are, Jeff. You are.
Okay, we're going to break up the love fest a little bit.
We're all in love with each other here now,
Yeah.
and we just hope that the listeners are going to fall in love with us too. And
Yep.
anyone who is listening right now, thanks so much.
Love me.
Yeah, love us. Send us questions. Send us messages. Send us hate mail.
So we can talk about that and make that a whole segment on the show.
Oh, it will be. It will be.
Hate mail to Amy on this week's episode.
So also thinking about the topic of what are we selling, do you guys have different ways to, I guess your marketing strategies, like what are your marketing strategies, that you go, I guess we start with Amy.
That is a huge topic.
Okay, well.
Marketing strategies, primarily, I have an online store, so I primarily care about the internet. So I'm constantly online. I make sure to be very up to date on my Instagram and my Twitter. I'm always communicating with people. I love that we've started this podcast because this gives me another opportunity to communicate with the public. Basically, people that are interested in surly-ramics are interested in me, the creator. And so it's sort of my politics, my opinions, my, the content that I put out on Skeptic and Mad Art Lab is the stuff that people care about, and that's what makes them interested in the jewelry. But what I make is unique in that it caters to, a scientific mindset. I sell to a lot of free thinkers and humanists. A lot of social justice activists are interested in my work. And so I try to be really, really active online. And so I do a lot of online promotions. I do a lot of online advertising. I'm that person that, sponsors their Facebook page posts. I do a lot of stuff like that. So, we could probably talk about marketing as a whole entire topic. But for me, I focus primarily on the internet. That's like where my whole life is. That's where I exist. I'm not even a real person. I'm just like a couple of pixels put together somewhere. I'm not even really here right now.
You're in the cloud.
Yeah, I'm in the cloud. I don't fully understand the cloud, but I'm somewhere in it.
And how about you, Bill?
My marketing strategy is pretty much just social media. Mm-hmm. I'm very, very active on social media to the point where I drive my wife a little bonkers with it. Mm-hmm. But I think, she understands it, and it's kind of the same situation that you're in, Amy, which is I'm trying to be available all the time. I do make exceptions. Like, I take a hard break for lunch. During lunch, I am not available. You can't get me.
What time is that? I want to test this theory.
Well, it varies day by day. But, yeah, every day I go have lunch with my wife because family is important, and otherwise I would just work all day through, and sometimes I forget to eat lunch, and that's not good.
I do it all the time.
Forcing yourself to take a break and reminding yourself about what's important are, they're very important things. But the rest of the time, I usually have my phone out. I'm on social media. I have an Instagram account that I try to stay active on. I'm very active on Facebook. And then I have my own website and I have my YouTube channel, which I try not to neglect too hard. But I credit that with my success, actually, because being active in the maker community and talking to other makers makes them want to support me. So my support of them and my, writing in Make Magazine, and then I share my articles with people, and sometimes they get featured in those articles, and it gives them a boost, and it costs me nothing.
It shows that you're genuine.
Right. And that is actually something I care very much about. Is in my old job, there were occasions when I had to say nice things about a product that I maybe didn't completely mean. And that in a small company, that wall between advertising and editorial is maybe not as strong as it should be. So on occasion, I would have to say nice things that I didn't mean, or take out criticisms that I otherwise would have left in.
So you were like the Food Channel people who said everything is good.
Everything's delicious. Yeah. So what I try to do now is I try to emphasize, like, if I recommend a tool or a product, or if I feature something in one of my videos, you're going to get my real, honest opinion. Like right now, I'm in the process of searching for sponsors and working on sponsorship deals, which is kind of a tricky subject, especially because some YouTube creators are I can never do a commercial. I'm never going to take $1 for advertising. I can't do that. And others are very, hey, I got to get the bills paid. And I do have to get the bills paid, and that is important. But at the same time, I cannot bring myself to endorse something that I don't actually like and appreciate.
Absolutely.
So that honesty and that interaction with the community is, when you work for yourself, your reputation is everything. Your name and your reputation are all that you've got. I mean, if you lose that, it's over. It's not like you can go found another company, because it's still going to be you behind it. You're the only person there. And they go, oh, that's that jerk who ruined that other thing because he kept doing commercials about garbage.
I don't know. I had my reputation tried to be ruined online once. We can talk about that. You can rise above it. I know what you're saying, but I've actually had people try to sabotage my business online.
Well, that's a little different, I think, because with yours, there were people trying to ruin your reputation, not because you were being dishonest, but because they didn't like what you were saying.
And you were being completely honest.
Yeah.
Right.
Also, I think the product speaks for itself too. So I'm not disagreeing with either one of you, but I think that, you can suck at something for a while, and it only takes one thing to be great for people, because you're really only as good as your last product.
Yeah.
Like, I used to play football. They always told me, like, yo, you're really only as good as your last play.
True.
So if your last product sucks, then they're going to be thinking the new product sucks until it doesn't suck anymore.
Right.
I think you can ruin your reputation because you did something that probably wasn't so great, but you're only as good as your last product or your last move. So if the next move is great, people appreciate it, you can come back from it. But I do think it's important that you limit the bad and try to maximize the good.
And I also think that, especially in something like, most of the product that I produce is free to the people who consume it. They might have to go to a different site, and that site might be trying to sell them something. Like Make Magazine is obviously interested in having people subscribe to the magazine. But my content, they can go on the website and see that for free. What I'm trying to do is retain the loyalty of my audience, and I do that by giving them consistently high quality articles, and also by encouraging them to trust my integrity, just by what we just talked about. Just, they know that if I say something, it's because I mean it, not because somebody told me to say it.
I agree. I think my marketing strategy changes depending on what it is that I'm marketing. The robots, obviously, they're not ready to be a full product yet, but I have been marketing them at makers fairs. I've also done a couple of small workshops in New York City, and people are trying to they're either trying to buy it off me or steal it from me. So either way it goes, I think the marketing for that is good.
That leads to another interesting topic, which is something that I've noticed through this conversation, is that we're all selling different things. Amy, you're selling a physical product. Jeff, you're developing a product, and you talked about, you've talked to me about like going through like a crowdfunding model to gain support for that from your audience. And then I guess I'm selling my content, but that content is free to consume except for the advertising. So then am I using that to encourage people to buy other things, or am I using that? So I guess the follow-on topic from there would be the different business models that you can use to make a living doing something that you love.
Absolutely. And I think that the traditional business model, go ahead, design something in secret, develop it, take all the time in the world to do it, and then finally roll it out later, is dead. We can't do that anymore. It's got to be like, really, going to makers fairs isn't just about me marketing, because obviously I can market, put money into like Facebook ads, Twitter ads and stuff like that, market and promote the product. but actually talking to people, having them touch it, feel it, play with it, give me feedback, that kind of improves my design and my development. And, that's the way that as we move to a more accessible marketing community, that's the way that we should be doing it, because the way that they've been doing it is dead.
I absolutely agree with the idea that going to events is extremely helpful for a business, especially for my business. That's literally how I improved. I would, I still do this. I travel across the country every year and I sell my jewelry. And when I do, I take notes as to what people picked up the most, what they purchased the most. Whenever somebody tells me, oh, I'd really love it if you made whatever, fill in the blank. If someone says it to me twice, it's in my designs for the next year. So it's like indispensable to have feedback from actual people at events. And I agree. And Maker Faire not only is great for that, but it is so inspiring to see all the other stuff that people are making. Such a great event. I can't say enough nice things about Maker Faire. I absolutely love it.
Absolutely. And I think the way that they blend, different levels of whatever it is that you're doing is very important. Like, I'll be two booths down from MIT. I've been, I've been that. So they have a working R2D2, and I have, this little ducket thing.
So great.
But it's the ability to go from those different types of booths and, just seeing how different people manifest their ideas. And, this starts to sound like a commercial for Makers Faire, but I think because we've all benefited from it, it just shows it's a testament to the way that we value that experience as well as the people who, attend that event.
Yeah, and I hope that this podcast is actually the same sort of thing. I hope that we can help people manifest their dreams, that we can give advice from things that we've experienced, and that we can help other people make a living making what they love.
Or if not make a living, I do think, everybody isn't built for this, right? True. So I'm never a advocate for everybody. Well, I am an advocate for everybody needs to have their own business. But when I say own their own business, I don't necessarily mean do it full time. I mean, maybe if your friend has an idea, give them some money so that they can, do that and then just, get dividends from that. And then if you are built for it, or if it's something that you really want to do, I think you need to go for it. But I think it's important that we move away from just working a regular 9-to-5 and being completely dependent on that as your only source of income. So I'm totally against that.
I completely agree.
Especially if you hate your job. And you know how many people hate their jobs or complain about their jobs and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
You complain about your job, do something about it. Was that loud?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's there are these two guys on YouTube, David Welder and Jocko whatever, and they've been doing one video a day for 30 days, and they're about 2/3 of the way through it. So they're both doing it. So there's 60 videos at the end of this thing. But they have a saying together, which is F dreams, make plans. And it goes back to that same thing, which is, you can sit there and wish for something to happen. You can hate your job all day long, but hating your job doesn't get you out of it.
Very true. You're still going to go back to work, too. You can hate your job. You'll still go back to work.
There was an article in The Onion saying something about this guy promises that he can only put up with this terrible job for another 17 years, and then he's walking right out the door. But a point that I wanted to make before we kind of drifted away from it was, I think it's interesting that, Amy, you sell products.
Yes. And I also have a Patreon where I just have my artwork, where people support me for content. So I do have just a content creation thing, but yes, where I primarily make my money is through a specific product.
Right. And Jeffrey, you're developing, you have one company that's making a physical product, and then you have other companies that are making service.
Yeah, I got multiple service companies. And I also do workshops as well. So I'm all over the place.
Well, we've already established that you don't sleep, so. But I think it's interesting because coming from my perspective, the physical products that I make in my videos, like if I do a project and I build a bar stool or a table, that's not where I'm making my money. I'm not making my money from the bar stool or the table. I'm making money from the video. This is something that they talked about on the Making It podcast. I don't know if you listen, but they had an entire episode called Process is the Product. And so I think that's important to keep in mind, that you can run your own business. You can do something that you love without having to sell a physical item. And I mean, all three of us do that to one level or another, which I think is very cool.
Absolutely. I can, especially with the Facebook Live and the YouTube Live and stuff like that, just sitting down working, I could have made a couple dollars just recording myself working all day, which would have been completely boring and you'd have just seen me laughing and crying at the cartoon. But, that right there, that process is in itself a potential product.
It's interesting that you bring that up because I have a good friend who works for Twitch.
That's
and
what it
she
was.
wants me to start doing that. And she wants me to start being basically like Bob Ross, only much a surlier version of that, I guess, because I'm not quite that friendly.
Yeah.
But just live painting. So I'm going to start doing paintings like a couple days a week, and you can tune in and watch me paint. The thing that sounds really difficult to me about that process is that in the beginning, when you have no Twitch followers, you're supposed to talk. You're supposed to have like this stream of consciousness just talking while you're painting thing. So we'll see how it goes. But I'll let you guys know if I do eventually launch that. I'm supposed to do it in a couple of weeks. But that would be another thing, that it's just the content. You don't get the painting when I'm done.
Yeah, I would be really interested to see that.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
sounds pretty cool.
And then at the end, and then on the flip side, you can, sell the painting.
Yeah.
So
Did you know that Bob Ross, are you familiar with Bob Ross? He was that 1970s guy who had a strange perm, and he would paint paintings.
The oil
and
painting. Is that the guy from PBS?
Happy trees.
Yeah, and he'd be like, we're going to put a happy little bush over here, and maybe there's some squirrels living in it, and this is your world. Your world can be as happy as you want it to be.
Yeah.
But it turns out I did a little research on him, because I was like, all right, well, if I'm going to start doing live painting, I should at least know the history of Bob Ross. He took his paintings and donated them all to PBS. He never sold any of them, and I think that that's so sweet.
Yeah.
Like, it was, public broadcasting network, and he was like, it's going to help them more than it would help me. And I just thought that was so sweet. So maybe I could like donate some of my paintings to like a charity or something. I don't know if I ever become popular enough. I don't know. It was so sweet.
I mean, I'm sure that somebody could benefit from them. You know what I'm saying? Like it maybe it's not a big charity, but I mean, you could give it to a Boys and Girls Club.
I'm looking at your wall right now, and I'm thinking you could benefit from one of my paintings.
I definitely do.
For those of you that cannot see Jeff's wall, it is completely blank.
Yes, this is the only room with light.
So I think we're actually running out of time for today.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what we're watching, what other content we are consuming. Jeff, do you have something to recommend?
Well, it's not really, well, I guess it is. I don't know if you guys are fans of Pokemon, but I'm a huge fan of Pokemon. The new Pokemon Go app just went live. So I downloaded that, just started playing that. It's augmented reality. So it's, we have virtual reality right now where you put the cameras on and you go into that space. Augmented reality brings the game to the real world. So what you actually have to do is you have to actually travel to different locations in your neighborhood, community. If you want to travel across the world, wherever, there's a map. And by going to those different locations, you'll be able to, capture different types of Pokemon, visit different stores. It's freaking awesome.
I have seen a couple of people playing that,
Yeah.
and it does look really cool.
It's really awesome. I'm not going to lie to you. I had to take a few breaks to get my Pokemon Master on. But hey, let's keep that on the low. I don't want too many people knowing that I'm reverting back to my childhood.
Amy, do you have something?
I am playing, if we're going to talk about games, The Room 3 right now. I don't know if you've ever played that app. It's really great on iPad. It's this incredible puzzle game where you go sort of into this other dimension, and you find all of these boxes, and each one is a different puzzle, and you can travel in and out of all these dimensions, and it's really beautifully designed. And they've had 3 of them, and The Room 3 is out right now, and so that's a game I've been playing. But as far as consuming stuff, I recently got accepted to ASCB, which is the Cell Biology Conference that happens once a year, and it's going to be in San Francisco, and it's all about cell biology. So I have been just consuming like mad all of the information I can about the latest cellular technology and biology findings in science, so that I can create art that I can sell to these scientists in December. And so what I've been learning about right now is CRISPR. And I won't take up too much time. I'll just say everyone Google it. It's CRISPR. And that is stands for something very confusing. I think it's the clustered regularly interspaced short palindromic repeats that are in DNA. And they're using bacteria to basically program DNA. It's a different type of gene splicing so that you can do all kinds of amazing things, like make a bug that normally hops walk, You can change it so it has walking feet instead of jumping feet. And they're using it, obviously, to try to cure a whole bunch of different diseases. And this is sort of the cutting edge technology of cell biology. So Google CRISPR, and you'll know all about what I'm trying to teach myself about right now. It's really, really interesting stuff.
Huh. That sounds slightly above my pay grade, but I'll give it a look.
Well, my art is all about science, so I gotta know this stuff.
Never was big on biology, but astronomy not astrology, but astronomy is my
Juno.
thing. So
are you aware of Juno that just came into orbit around Jupiter on 4th of July?
No, I didn't check about. I'm going to look into that now.
I am such a science nerd, you guys.
No,
you shouldn't have me on this
very
podcast.
interesting, but the biology was never my thing. Chemistry, kinda. Astronomy, definitely. Physics and all that other stuff, yes, but
I love it all.
biology,
You guys. There's so much inspiration for art and all of that stuff. I love it so much.
Absolutely. So what about you, Bill?
All right, I've got two things for you. One, since we talked about Twitch, there is a guy who goes by Muonide, Muonide. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, but his name is Ross, and he's a professor in Alabama, and he's been giving free astronomy lectures on Twitch starting this week. He's done 2 of them so far. He's going to be doing them, I think, once a day. But yeah, it's just intro astronomy stuff. If you've never had the opportunity to study it, it's really fascinating.
Can I say really quick? My friend Phil Plait, the bad astronomer, did a whole series of astronomy intros like that too. And I am really upset with myself because I can't think of the name of the production company that sort of put him out on YouTube. But if you just search for Phil Plait and astronomy, he's doing something very similar.
Well, we can find it and put a link in the notes.
Yeah, that's so great.
And then the other thing that I've been watching since I've been, trying to establish this business where I work for myself and I don't have a boss and I'm independent, I've been watching this guy on YouTube called Gary Vaynerchuk. You might know him as Gary V.
Gary V. My guy.
And Gary V does a lot of short YouTube clips. He does a daily show where he answers questions, but he also does these short clips that are sort of motivational and just trying to like a kick in the butt to get you moving.
It'll make you rethink your life.
Give me an example.
The most motivational 3 words ever are "you're gonna die." So do something about it. You have this time. You have this life.
Running out.
Use it.
Yeah,
don't ever sit there and wish that you were doing something different. If you want to do something different, go do it.
He makes it so there's a lot of people out here that, if you're talking to somebody about how you need to invest, they start talking a whole bunch of different things about the stock market and all this other stuff. And then you talk about business guys, and then business people give you a whole lot of nonsense. And there's so many people who talk about how you can make money doing these things. And the steps are so, they're not, for me, I think they're very overwhelming to somebody who doesn't have any experience with that. Gary V, he's very simple and to the point. He says, go on Amazon, buy something for $1, sell it on eBay for $2. You've made money. You know what I'm saying? So I think the way that he breaks it down is very important. And I think that's I watch Gary V a lot. I think he's a great, it's not too much theory with him. It's just go out and do it.
Yeah. All right, I think that's it for this week. So I want to thank everybody for joining us. If you are listening to the show on iTunes, please give us a rating. Let us know what you thought, even if what you thought was not good. We'd still love to hear about it. So please let us know.
Comments are very important.
Comments are extremely important. You can leave comments in your reviews on iTunes. You can also leave them at makershustlepodcast.com. You can find us on Twitter at makershustle. You can find us on Facebook at makershustle. We are all over the place. We're pretty easy to find. If you have questions or want to contribute a topic, it's info@makershustlepodcast.com. So that's it for this week, and we appreciate you joining us. And while this show might be over, the hustle never stops. We'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.